Welcome back to House of Valkyries, headquarters for the global movement of Soul on Fire embodied arts, where creative, unique, wild women trailblaze your soul missions and movements. I am your host, Carly Raemer, and I am with Violet Vang, who is co-facilitating, co-piloting Valkyries 6 with me starting October 8th. And today we are having a discussion about the importance, necessity, and responsibility of a sacred rage practice for feminine expression and power. And the list could really go on here. I could go on and on. Liberation,
Movement.
movement, creative genius. But we'll get into all of that, as well as emotional expression and range of experience, range of emotion, range of capacity in what we can be and feel with. Sacred rage is it's a hot topic. It's a sacred rage are certainly not a set of words that I grew up with.
Mhm.
Sacred or rage. They were certainly not in my toolkit as a kid, as a something that is holy and necessary for moving energy through the body, for managing emotions, for being true and and expressed, for showing up fully in the world. Like I didn't have that. I didn't have that.
Yeah.
And I don't think many of us did.
No, it was not a safe expression to have. My rage was just silence and cold silence.
That's what yours was
But
like?
there, yeah, like you no longer exist. And I was just silent and cold, but there's no expression there that's holding in my body, right?
Yeah.
It's just held and held and held and suppressed and suppressed and suppressed because the actual expression was not a safe or available thing to do or have or be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like people knew when I was angry, but I mean, I could feel it now, like how that manifests, just like the stiffness in my neck and my throat and like the shallow breath and the tightness in my chest and my back, you know?
Yeah. 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 So when you were younger, and when I say younger, I mean previous to Valkyries, you
Yeah.
you like cold shouldered. That was your move.
Yeah,
Is like
that was my move.
I'm withdrawing contact, I'm withdrawing love, and just like
Yeah,
no.
withdraw. Yeah, silence. Like you were literally, I could ignore like no other. Like I can ignore someone in the room. Like,
I can see that for you.
nope.
Uh,
Um,
I love this past
yeah,
version of you.
yeah. And then it turned into like anger and rage was working out. Like I'd hit the gym really fucking hard. And that was good. Like that did some things.
Mhm. What did that do for you?
Um, it made me feel like powerful. Um, but yet again, there was no actual expression of that, right? Like it's very masculine to just like go hit the gym and like lift heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But I sweat it out.
Yeah.
But that I think that was a catalyst of like building a relationship with anger and with rage. Like that's kind of where it started for me to like make friends with that emotion and actually start embracing it a little more.
Mm-hmm. Looking back, so from where you are now, looking back on that time and this catalyst moment, whether you realize it or not in that moment, like building this relationship with the expression of anger, rage, frustration, irritation in workout. What, so you say that that wasn't like, it's still not expression. Um, Feel back into that moment for me where you're still at the gym and you're hitting the gym really hard and lifting really hard, which like, by the way, is like no shade, no shame. Like
Yeah.
Violet and I were just talking about workouts before we got here. Like,
We fucking love him.
yeah.
We still need. Yeah.
Full support of a masculine workout, full support of a feminine workout. It's just harder. It's harder to do a feminine workout than a masculine workout. Ask me about it, I'll tell you.
I think we had this conversation too. Uh,
Love a workout, but what was missing there for you? Like, what do you know now about what was missing for you there?
um, like I was still afraid to express anger or like even receive that experience. Like if someone's mad at me, you know?
Oh, oh, I do. Oh,
Yeah.
I do.
So like that level of, I guess, intimate relationship with that emotion was still like not quite there. Like it was a layer of being able to be with, but like I still would not, if I was mad at someone about something, like I could still not say the thing.
You'd still ignore them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, were you were you even aware at that point? And I might be asking myself this question. Were you aware at that point that you were missing the expression of rage? Because I don't
No,
think that I would have known that at
no,
that
I
point.
wasn't. Like, I would say not.
Yeah, I definitely was not.
Because like I it would be I feel sometimes I would use rage to like get over being sad. So it would go like this, like I'm feeling down in the dumps. I'm gonna turn on this like angry music, usually Eminem or like dubstep, and go work out. And then I'd feel great. But it was this like sequence of emotional events. um yeah, I don't even know if I answered the question or not.
I think you did. Yeah. Yeah. I
But
mean,
no, like I wasn't fully aware, but that's kind of like how I dealt with it.
mhm, cool. When, okay, so fast forward from that point, but rewind from where we are now
Yeah.
into Valkyrie's one when we did our initial work on Sacred Rage
Hmm.
and I gave you Rage homework and a Rage playlist, and you had you had dropped into our group something about you wrote something like you were like I was driving through I don't know, driving through the desert, driving through LA uh at night with all the windows down and like screaming out my windows and just like never fucking feel better. Like like I've never felt better. It was like really
I
epic. I want you to feel back into that moment.
Uh-huh.
And tell me what that was like for you. Like this, um, the I don't know, the invitation into sacred rage, like even making rage sacred, even bringing it onto the table, stepping into this homework when I give it this homework when it first came to me was super fucking edgy, and it's one of the most resistant ones that remains in Valkyries every time I give rage homework. There's so much resistance. I'm just curious what came up for you in that moment.
I think for me, it was like, "Oh, fuck yeah, like, I get to go there." Because I had already, like, had an introduction to, like, rage for me, which was very, very little. Like, I was just a rage monster, and I didn't know it until the opening of this practice, and I was like, "Oh, this is who I've always been." But to have a safe space to, like, fully feel it and fully express it, I think that's what it was for me, like, safe, like, "Oh, I get to safely, um, be in this fully and, like, feel it and express it, like, let it move through my body."
Mm,
And that, I guess, for my experience, it was, like, liberating. Um, yeah.
mhm, mhm. There's a question that comes up often with women who are, I'll say, orienting to this practice or acclimating to it or curious about it or afraid of it. And the question is something about um, the safety of it. Like,
Mhm,
um, if I express anger, then I'm an angry person. If I'm a rage body, then I'm going to hurt people.
mhm,
Which uh, comes from lots of places. Like comes from each of us being hurt by someone else's anger at some point in
mhm,
our lives.
mhm,
And I would call that unsacred anger. There's
mhm.
lots and lots of examples of ways that our society has really fucked with the beauty and necessity of the expression of anger, and has like really made it hurtful. So yeah, of course there's concern and fear in the body that like this expression is going to be hurtful.
Mhm.
And it also comes from, I have a really intense itch in my nose. Also also comes from eons and eons of expression in general, feelings in general being shut down. Um,
Yeah.
don't get mad. Don't feel that. Got to hold it all together. Just like rub some dirt in it and move on. So many ways that expression and feelings have been repressed, and so now
Mhm.
here's an invitation to um, express it, to move it through the body, and there's resistance.
Yeah.
Totally normal.
I feel like this is where the sacredness aspect comes from, is the having the full approval of, in a safe space, to express it, even if it's scary, right? Because it can be, and it has been a very volatile experience at large. But this gives us a space to actually work with it and move with it. And so, let me ask you this: what is a sacred rage practice?
The There's a couple elements that make it sacred, and one of them is creating a container, and the container, and all of this is inside of Valkyries. Um, but creating the container can look a lot of different ways. The reason, or one of the reasons that anger can be hurtful, can be leaky, can get projected out onto other people is because it's not contained. It's not put in a container. And by container, I don't mean like make it smaller or like don't let anybody see it. It's actually really important that we do let people see it because it shows this part of ourselves, the part that is angry, that is frustrated, that is irritated about things. It shows this, it proves to these part of ourselves when we bring it to a group of women or our partners or some witness outside of us that's going to hold our space unwaveringly. It proves to these parts of ourselves that we're safe to express, and that's an enormous key element in any kind of inner alchemy.
Mhm.
So back to the container, creating a container for it to make it sacred. So I can say that the space of my room is the container for this rage practice, for this expression. And I'm gonna step into my room and let the walls of this space hold me, and hold my expression. We can use time as a container. Um, I I will often use the time container of like a song or two to hold my space. We can also use a physical space again. The inside of a car is really great. Um,
Yeah, I
that
was gonna
one's,
say that's mine.
yeah, me too. Um, or even a pillow. We'll
Mm,
often use pillows as a sense of safety, but also a place that holds the energy that you're moving out of your body.
yeah,
Uh,
I have something to say about the pillow.
go for it.
Like, um, my one-on-ones with you, like the first time you had me scream into a pillow, that was the most liberating experience I had ever had to like fully unleash. And then I think some of the very first ones, it wasn't even on video. So like you were just holding me over the phone in these like banshee like screams that was coming out of me. And that like holy shit was probably some of the most transformative like rage experiences that I had.
What transformed for you there?
Um just like getting to scream so uglily and like being held. I felt really like nasty. Like I think that's what rage used to feel like for me. Like you're a nasty person, like a horrible, nasty person.
Yeah.
But to get her out was like, holy shit, this isn't me. But she was like that big and had to express that big.
Mhm. What, so if you used to make it mean that you're a nasty person, what has that shifted into now?
Um,
Because you don't make it
I'm
mean that
like,
anymore.
yeah, but it's funny because it's funny because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a nasty person. But like it's shifted into
Changed.
this.
Yeah.
I'm still saying the same word almost.
Uh-huh.
But like the energetic behind it is like, yeah, I'm real nasty.
You're not making it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no wrongness or like, yeah, I'm bad. Like, yeah, and I can
Uh-huh.
still be myself and I can still live my life.
Yeah. Some of this is existential kink, which we will get into next
Yeah.
week. And
Stay
is
tuned.
and is also inside of Valkyries. Uh stay tuned. That's like, I'm not even gonna open that door because we're gonna spend a whole nother hour there.
Yeah.
And if you come with us, we're gonna spend a whole 6 months in it.
Yeah.
It's gonna change your life. It's gonna change your life. Okay. So something I, by the way, if you're like Carl, you didn't finish your thought about what is a sacred rage practice. I know that. I'm coming back to it. This is my pin. I'm putting a pin in it. Okay. I love working with embodied pins. When you put an embodied pin in it, you'll remember what it is for later. Okay, putting pin there. This, what I want to highlight here is this approval, approval of approval of self. And there's so many ways that we can work with this, so many ways that we do work with this. But approval versus acceptance. Acceptance is this like really big word in all sorts of communities, in manifestation work and spiritual communities and self-development. I accept things that are. I accept the things that are, right?
Yeah.
I accept myself as I am. I accept. And it has this, like, for me, it has this very like Seinfeld Serenity Now essence to it. And that's
Mhm.
great. But what it feels like, the energy of accept versus approve, accept feels like one step, where approval is the one that really flips it
Mhm.
into, that flips anything into, I can feel it in my body. What are the words here? Let's just feel it. Just feel this in your bodies, or come along with us with this, for the somatic energetic process. This, feel feel the energy, the energetics. You'll feel it in your body of accept. I accept. Notice what that feels like. There's some taking in, there's reception. I
Mhm.
accept. There's some surrender, but there's a period on it. There's like, I
Yeah.
accept. Yeah. I accept this. I accept this. This is fine. There's like some
This is fine.
smarkiness. Yeah. There's some
It's
smarkiness.
weird. To me, it feels like it just lands right on top of my skin. Like
Right.
it's not actually going into my body.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it feels like for me.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
accept, and it's just like this blanket that lands on my body.
Yeah. So yeah, and as you're listening to this, just feel accept in your own body. And of course, we're all going to have different orientations here. So
Mhm.
whatever this feels like for you is perfect. And then feel into the energy of approve. I approve. The energy of approval in my body is so, it's still receiving. I don't know, there's receiving and giving. Approve. It's like, well, it's it's rounded. It's like four-dimensional. It fills my whole body. I approve. There's like a softening of shoulders, and my belly gets soft, and my breath shifts. Anyway, energetic semantics here. Approval versus acceptance. But I love the word approval, because when we're in approval of all that we are, of all of our parts, including the parts that we've deemed wrong, like I'm a nasty bitch, or our inner rage archetypes have all sorts of fabulous names. One of them that came through in last Valkyries is named Murder Bitch, and
I love her.
love her. And when you bring the energy of approval to these parts, these internal parts, all of our parts, approval, then they don't get repressed. So
Mhm.
when you're like, oh, I'm nasty, I'm a nasty person, and you're making that wrong, that's a repression, right? Where you're
Mhm.
repressing that, like, that nasty side. That must
Mhm.
that's nasty. That makes me bad and wrong. Just like, shh,
Yeah.
shove it down there,
I
right?
don't exist.
You don't exist. You can't exist, because then I'll die.
Yeah.
I'll be I'll be wrong, and people will leave me, and I'll die. But when we can bring her, we can bring nasty bitch to nasty bitch. I just smashed up nasty person and murder bitch together. But when you can
Yeah.
bring when you can bring approval to the frustrated parts, to the taboo parts, to the angry parts, to the parts that don't fit in nicely in society, when we bring approval to those, they're no longer repressed. Because what happens when we go like this to something, we're like, you're bad, you're wrong, you're fucking with my life, you're sabotaging me, you're ruining my manifestations, you're ruining my dreams, like nobody likes you, go back, is they get stronger. Like everything that
Mhm.
we shove down and like make wrong about ourselves, it gets stronger. So when we can bring approval to it, she can come onto the table and actually integrate. And that doesn't mean
Mhm.
that your nasty bitch is running the show, right? But when
Yeah.
she's here, there's actually space for her to express, which means somatic liberation for you, which means that you can move through the world as you're meant to, rather than harboring this weird part like in a strange cage behind your body and like
Yeah.
taking up space and not moving.
Yeah. And sneaking through in the sneakiest of ways to sabotage you.
She always sneaks through.
She's
Yeah,
like, "Oh,
right. That's the
you
other
think
part.
you got me locked up. That's funny.
Oh, you think I'm nasty?
I can show you what nasty is."
Right? Yeah. Oh, the inner saboteur. Yeah. Full embodied approval of all of our parts. Obviously, today we're talking about our ragey parts, which, by the way, often look like grief. I'm just
Mhm.
That's another pin. Now I have two pins going. I want to talk about how rage was actually grief, or what I thought it was grief for me for a long time. Um, when we can bring all of those parts into full embodied approval, then there actually is no inner saboteur anymore,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they get to express their desires, so they're not repressed. And when things get repressed in the body, they get really weird. It's not just sabotage. That's when jittery and anxiety and I can't sleep well, and they'll manifest as physical stuff too. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go back to this pin about what is a sacred rage practice, and the sacred part, having a container. You're back. You're good. Um, having a container, having a container that holds the space as sacred. And the other thing I want to throw into the container talk is that another person or a group of people, uh, for example, Valkyries, is a really great container. um, if this person or your group of people are holding the space of sacred witness. So I don't mean just like screaming at another person like that. That's not it. There's no container, right? That is actually hurtful.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, having the container, and when you set a container for anything, it it infuses the energy that you're coming into it with. I don't know if that was a complete sentence. But like if I'm the intention goes a long way. So let's say that I'm like, I know that I have some energy that needs to move that may or may not look like rage. I don't often know that it's going to. And I'm going to set my container. I'm intending to go into my space and make this sacred. And simply because I have said that it is sacred, it becomes so. So a huge part of the sacred part is actually honoring it as such, and orienting towards the expression of what society, or family deems bad and wrong. That is uh, anger, rage, irritation, frustration. But now I'm orienting to it in a way that I am holding as holy. So I am the one that is making it sacred. And also when I view as I view my emotion, my energy as sacred, now it becomes my responsibility to move this emotion, to process this emotion, to be with it. So back to the question of that Violet posed, that is, what is a sacred rage practice? A sacred rage practice is going to look different for every single time we drop into it. But Violet, I'm answering your what is a sacred rage question. When we are sacred rage practice is getting really, really real with the energy that needs to move through your body and doing that and making it sacred. This is energy. This is emotion. It needs to move through me because otherwise it's in me. Need to move it out. And so it means hitting your floor, crawling into bed, getting into your car, turning on a track, shaking your body, moving your body, sounding from your body, and letting the sounds that need to move out of you move out of you. This is a curious spot, especially for something that is not super practiced in the society that we live in, to allow the sound, to allow the energy, to allow the emotion to show you how it wants to move. So that, like, so often when sacred rage sounds come out of me, I'm shocked by the sound that I just made. Where previously, I don't even know that that's the word that I want to use. So often we're showing up, speaking with intention, making sound with intention. Like if I'm going to make a sound, I know exactly what's going to come out of my mouth, right? And like if I squeak or my voice comes out funny, then there's some like, like I did a weird thing, right? We're like so planned around how sound moves through us because we tie so much up in that. So when we come into a any kind of practice, but specifically a sacred rage practice, and start yelling, screaming, shrieking, wailing, moaning,
Hissing.
and what?
The hissing.
Hissing, yeah.
Yeah.
Growling, yeah. It's coming from a place that is showing you, showing your body, showing your sound how to move, rather than like, I need to sit down and yell and it's going to sound like this tone here or like this tone here. Like I'm going to make this as beautiful as possible.
Yeah.
So there's a new space in your emotions and your energy showing you how to move, which is really how the feminine wants to move through the world. That's a bigger conversation that'll unfold over time. Yeah, a sacred rage practice is making all of your emotions sacred and also moving them through your body in movement and sound in a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
And then in Valkyrie's being seen in it.
Yeah.
Like that extra piece of like, oh, fuck. She's about to get exposed. this this nasty bitch that's been hiding in the darkness now
Mm.
has to be seen.
Yeah, and what does that do for her?
Yeah. Are you asking me? What does that
Yeah,
do?
what does that do for her?
Oh, um, I think it really fortifies the full approval. It grounds it. It lands it. Because you can have this whole experience by yourself, but like that level of reflection and witness is like a whole next level, because she's always been hiding. Like she knows how to hide.
Mhm. Yeah, the parts that we've hidden, we hide because we think that we won't be loved there. That
Mm-hmm.
if you let this nasty part out, if you let murder bitch out, um if you let this part of you that's really fucking pissed off about fill in the blank, if you let the part of you, all of the parts of us that we've deemed unlovable, if I let if I let my boyfriend see this part of me, he's going to leave me.
Mm-hmm.
If I let my daughter see this part of me, she's going to be afraid of me. If I let this part of me out, then they will leave me, then I will be alone. So these parts that we've hidden, we hide, we have hidden because someone somewhere along the way, maybe it could be a person, but it could just be like society at large, has made those parts wrong. They're like, oh, that's bad and wrong, that's gross, don't ever show that again. So we're like, oh, hide that, right? So when we
Yeah.
express those parts, when we start to actually be in touch with those parts and express them and then bring them to the forefront to be seen and held by sacred witness, by Valkyries. And all of the women in Valkyries are like, fuck yeah, that was amazing. I could feel it from here. My feet are tingling. More. Like, yes, please, thank you, more. So those parts that have been hidden our whole lives all of a sudden are like, one, I didn't die. And
Yeah.
two, I'm loved and celebrated here. And so they get
Yeah.
to learn a different story in the world. They get to learn
Yeah.
that they're safe to be,
Yeah.
which is part of the whole integration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, my other pin that was over here. Embodied pins, guys. I tell you what. I tell you what, I'll give you all my tricks inside of Valkyries. Um, I okay, anger for me as a kid, um, I mostly didn't experience anger. I mostly experienced grief. I cried so much as a kid. This is super common. Households, and even within a household system, there'll be usually grief or rage that is normalized. So it's either okay for you to cry or it's okay for you to get mad.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes both, um, sometimes neither. But usually like one is more approved of than the other in a family system. In my family unit, um, I'm gonna use my sister and my sister's relationship to rage and my relationship to grief as an example. And I'm just asking for her permission from the ether because she's also in Valkyries, and I'm just trusting that she's going to be okay with me talking about this. Her emotion that was normalized in her body and was okay in some regards, okay for her to be expressed, was anger, and mine was grief. I cried every single day. Like as a kid, I like feeling back into my childhood, I cried every single day and everything would make me cry. Everything. Because that was my way. That was my coping mechanism. I'm gonna have to let Biff out of the room.
Okay. She's just
That's
like stole half of the show.
I know she did. She's like cleaning her butt. Thanks, sweetie. Okay, so mine, I didn't even know that I could get angry, especially as an adult. That's not entirely true because I would get the exception to all of my grief and all of my tears, over, you guys, literally everything made me cry, like, and still does. I still cry all the time. But as a kid, like, someone hurting my feelings, my sister being mad, my, the Lion King, like, oh my God,
Oh my
movies
god, The
forever.
Lion King.
I would cry over songs. I would cry over love, like everything made me cry. Um, but that was my entry point into emotional body was
Mm.
tears. And a lot of this makes sense too. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm also an artist, and my poet's like, well, everything is cry worthy. Um, but I also had these like super hot pops of anger, and they would explode. They would like drop in my body and get really, really hot and just like bleh, like come out. I had this like all the way through childhood, until when I started this work, really. And then I would explode. And it was usually when you could cross my boundaries as much as you want. I wouldn't really move. My voice was like super shut down. So like standing up for myself, or like saying what I thought was right, or even speaking my truth, like knowing I've always I've always pretty much known what's true for me and my own sovereignty and like my own uniqueness. But speaking that was the part that was really repressed. Um, so like, yeah, okay, cross my boundaries, whatever, like totally fine. But it was like when I knew something was when I knew something, I like knew something was right, or knew something was wrong, or like knew that I was really correct in something, um, then it would like, yeah, it would explode out of me. And then I'd feel explode and like hit someone. And then I'd feel really, really guilty and try to take
Mhm.
it all back really fast and clean it up.
Mhm.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I clean it up really fast. And let me see how I want to weave this together. Because anger was not an expression that I had normalized in my body. When I started my rage practice, it felt like I couldn't get sound out. It was like
Mm.
sound was stuck right here, because it had been shut down so many times or turned into the emotion that was normalized in my body, that was grief. And so I find that a lot of women will be in a similar boat, where something that they should have gotten upset about
Mhm.
ended up being tearful instead of anger. But that means that the emotion got repressed and now needs to be expressed.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, a lot of women that when they come to a rage practice are like, I don't have rage. I'm not angry. And I'm like, let me show you. Yes, you do. And it's gonna feel so good. You're gonna feel so good on the other side. Because underneath the bottom of grief, every fucking time, is rage. And the
Yeah.
other way around. Anger and
Yeah.
anger, rage, and grief. And like there's so many emotions in between here, right? But we're just gonna
Yeah.
use this like very polarized spectrum, are fluid, even though our
Yeah.
brains love to think that like this one's over here and this one's over here. But grief and rage are so, so close, so
Yeah.
united. And once you really embody a grief practice and a rage practice and a joy practice, they're like waves, where like one becomes
Yeah.
the next, becomes the next, becomes the next. So I'll be like, um I get in my car, every time I get in my car, my body will like run a check and be like, anything here I need to process, anything I need to yell about. So I'll be like, okay, there's some rage in here, I'm gonna move this out. And then it turns into tears, or
Mhm.
I'm like, oh my God, like my heart is super tender today. I need to go cry about something. And at the bottom of my cry is this like deep ass guttural yell that I didn't even know was in there.
Yeah.
They're so closely related.
That's so interesting, like, to hear your experience of the grief, and beneath that is anger, and, like, for my experience, like, the anger and beneath that is grief and, like, tenderness and sadness. Um, yeah, so it really goes hand in hand almost.
Yeah, yeah, it really does. And we can utilize them depending on which one was more normalized for you, like which one feels essentially safe to feel in your body. You can utilize one to practice the other. So
Yeah.
if for me, the entry point is grief, I'm going to hit tears first, and then I can drop into rage. But if
Mhm.
anger was the go-to, you can get mad about it and then drop into grief.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like that's the introduction of sacred rage. Why I felt so liberating for me was because that was the like a closer touch. But the feeling and the crying, like I wasn't like you don't cry. Like you don't cry. And I really didn't start crying until like I started this work. Like right before I cried every day, and then I found this work. But before that, I don't like I hardly cried. Yeah.
I feel so excited for you. You never
Uh,
cried. I never really got mad.
yeah, but it's funny because the holding it's still in the same space. Like when you're holding in a cry and your throat is just hurting. It's like croaking with pain. And every time I cried, I couldn't really talk.
Right.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. And it's all just shut down expression, right? It's all expression that expression, energy, emotion, it's all energy, that somewhere along the line got shut down. That's like,
Mhm.
no, don't do that. No, don't, no, shh, don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a it's a fear of emotions, it's a fear of feminine power, it's a fear of expression. And yeah, when you feel that, when you really feel that in your body, it actually feels like a block
Mhm.
when we don't let it come out.
Mhm.
So I have two things that want to come out at the same time, and I can't say them both at the same time, obviously. I'm like, which one first? Um, okay, full spectrum living, full range, putting a pin in that one. We're gonna wrap up with that. And before that, I want to talk about compartmentalizing emotions. So go back to 5 minutes ago when I was talking about how the brain wants to make this is grief and this is rage, and these are like they're in different rooms. They're like
Mhm.
not even in the same house, which is simply not true. Uh, they're fluid, and we do this with all emotions. The brain does this, and yeah, there's lots that I could say about that, but I don't think it's relevant. Um, we're like, this is this emotion, and this is this emotion, and this is this emotion. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling gray. I'm feeling ecstatic. I'm feeling depressed. And when we say that, or when we think that, we can put them into these nice little boxes. But that's not feeling the feeling.
Mhm.
Talking about your feelings is not feeling the feeling. And as long as we keep them in these boxes, that's like, this is sad, this is happy, this is the other things, this is grumpy, this is this, this is that, then they stay in these little boxes inside of our bodies.
Mhm.
But when we can experience them as, like, sad isn't a feeling, happy isn't, I'm sorry, sad isn't a sensation, sad is not an, it's not a sensation, happy is not a sensation. But when we can experience them as sensation in the body, then we can start to move them and understand, embodied understand the fluidity of all emotion as a movement of
Mhm.
energy.
Mhm.
Then we can actually move and process emotions through our body instead of putting that one over there and that one over there, and I'll feel that one when I have time for it. But again, talking about, journaling about, calling your friend to jam about an emotion is still not feeling the emotion. So often I see this gap between processing the emotion actually through your body versus the idea of it. And when we can shift it from the box, the compartmentalization of this emotion, into the sensation of energy, then we can actually move it through the body.
Mhm.
So in Valkyries, I always start us with a practice through that starts through the body. So we do check-ins. You're checking in with your body, but you're checking in with your sensational body. So if you say something like, I've just stopped breathing, I'm feeling blocked and sad today, that tells
Mhm.
me nothing about the energy in your body. So I will say something like, what does sad feel like in your body? Where do you feel it in your body? What is the sensation of sad being in your body? And sad, as I feel it now, my heart is tender, and there's this like dripping water on the bottom of my heart. My shoulders want to hunch forward. There's something heavy at the back of my brain and like behind my eyes. Now we can work with energy. Now we're in the
Mhm.
body and out of the brain.
Mhm. Mhm.
Which brings us to why? Why we want to do this? Why do we want to do this? Why is this a conversation we're having today? Why is this an important, pivotal, foundational, I'm going to say module, but month, but actually like the groundwork of Valkyries and living a soul led life? Like, why are we talking about this? What's the fucking point? What becomes possible when we have an embodied rage practice, when we're in full approval of our own rage and expression? What can we do now?
Anything and everything.
Why?
Because we're fully in the experience of life. Like this is life. There's freedom and liberation in movement. Like by movement, I mean how you be in the world, like how you're moving through the world, how you're moving through your experience of life. Because like we know this, like you can plan as much as you want, but life is lifing. Like this, it's a co collaboration of
Mm-hmm.
like outer experience.
Mm-hmm.
And having that freedom and fluidity in body is like, oh, I can roll with the punches, right? It doesn't throw my whole fucking day off if it doesn't go to plan.
Right. It puts you back in flow with life.
Yeah.
So like we'll give an example here. So like let's say that I'm flying today. I go to the airport and they're like, your flight is delayed by 6 hours. And I'm mad. I'm frustrated. And instead of, or the old way would be like to be pissy about it or to pretend to not be and like, I'm fine. This is totally fine. But actually I'm harboring this like angst. And so what we can do, you can totally have a rage practice in the airport.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. While some rage practices are like a wild fucking primal beast on your floor, you can also move your energy through in so many different ways, which is where Valkyries comes in. Moving energy through your body, processing energy in your body, turning energy into something else through your body, not just conceptualizing the change of energy, but actually doing it. So they're like, your flight is, I can't remember what I said, 6 hours.
Yeah.
Your flight's delayed. Now it's 10 hours. And I'm pissed. So I'm actually gonna be upset about it. I'm gonna wiggle and shake and let the energy move and like huff and puff about it. Create my own space. So I'm not spilling it all over the poor people in the airport. Enough of that already happens, right? And I'm like
Mm-hmm.
blowing it out, like literally moving the energy through my body, like blowing it out, moving it, like sending it back into the earth. I'm going to give you all sorts of practices for doing rage practices wherever you need to do them. You can do them in closets, you can do them in pillows. I had a Valkyrie who might be coming back this time. Actually, I think she is, who used to carry a tiny pillow in her purse so that when
This is
she was in
great.
situations like this, she could just like like yell into it and like put it back in her purse. Okay, so I'm frustrated. I don't want to sit at the airport for another fucking 10 hours, right? But like, I'm going to move that frustration, move it out of my body, honor it. This is an energy that's got to move. Then I move it out. And now I come back and I'm clear. I'm not holding that anymore. I was frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
I got fucking frustrated. And now I'm good. And I can be like, all right, well, I'm free. I'm free to flow with whatever else comes at me. And this is where angels in the airport show up
Mm-hmm.
and like people are here
Magic
to,
happens.
magic happens, people are here to support you. They're like, oh, actually, you just, I don't know what happened. You got bumped up to first class. Or like,
Yeah.
oh, so you sit in the airport for 10 hours, but it's like the most creative 10 hours of your life. Or you meet your partner there, or like, yeah, you are either creating magic or magic is being created with you, but that's not
Mm-hmm.
accessible when you're harboring this angst at whatever the thing is.
Yeah. Like if you're sitting there in anger for the entire 10 hours and then carry it to wherever you're flying to.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like leaking out of your skin and you're hot and the people around you are like, whoa, like what did that girl have for breakfast, good god.
It's
And
just a
that's when
shitty day.
it's a shitty day, and that's when say something you didn't mean to say, something comes out of you and you're like, oh god, I like so sorry, I didn't mean to say that. you know um that's when we get leaky with energy and put it onto other people.
Mm-hmm.
In the in our last 2 minutes, the very last thing that I want to wrap us up with is like full range and full spectrum life. When we want more joy, right? Everyone wants to be happier. Then there's always more. We can always let more in. We can always run more of the frequency of creativity and pleasure and God through your body. There's always more possibility to wake up in love with life. But if you want more of anything, of any emotion, it gets bigger. Your capacity to receive and experience the highs of life gets bigger the more approval and capacity you have for the, I don't love this like high low thing because it makes them good and bad, and I don't believe that. Like energy is energy, emotions are emotions, emotions are raw energy. But the more that we can be with the raw, grievous, ragey, vengeful, I mean, vengeful is a wounded energetic, but we still feel it. Like the more that we can be with the down, that we can develop a sacred relationship with the down, the more that we can experience the full capacity of life.
Mhm.
So the extent at the extent to which you can feel up, happiness, joy, delight, celebration, gratitude, creativity, pleasure is equal to the amount that you are allowing yourself to feel in all of the other ways. Like they grow. I mean, imagine this is like 3-dimensional, right?
Mhm.
They grow all
Sphere.
together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the more approval, the more expression you can bring to your rage body, the more approval and expression you can give to your grief, the more approval and expression you can give to your primal sexual taboo parts, the more that the other ones expand too.
Mhm.
And spoiler alert, this is all related to how much money we can receive too.
Mhm.
That's the second time I've done that wink on this call. I'm like, where's this coming from?
I'm like seeing it play back now in my head, and it's so good. So you have to watch the video.
Okay. I mean, this has been an incredible, beautiful hour on Sacred Rage, and I feel like we barely scratched the surface. So as always, if you have further questions, please reach out to either of us. Um, and get in Valkyries. We start in a little bit over a month and
T
make
minus 1 month. Yeah.
T-minus 1 month and you're gonna make Sacred Rage your best friend. We are gonna make you yell on camera, and it's gonna be the hottest experience you've had. It's gonna
Mhm.
change everything. Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta get better at ending these calls. We're here and I'm like,
That was good.
okay, great. See you in Valkyries.
The last part was just all in your head. I was like, yeah, that was great.
Oh, great way to get out of your head and into your body. Sacred Rage.
Yeah,
We'll teach you all
absolutely.
the secrets. It's gonna change your life. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. I have more to say about Sacred Rage and actually transmuting. Like if you have a practice and it's not working for you or you end up feeling drained, come see me on Instagram and I'll do a story about it. Okay. See you in
Okay.
Valkyries.